Hi guys, my name is Roland, and today we're looking at another case that shows how far someone will go to erase an inconvenient person from their life. In August of 2023, in a quiet suburb outside Las Vegas, a mother called police to say she'd found her son dead in his bed. What officers found inside that house was so gruesome that even experienced detectives struggled to process it. The father of two young girls had been beaten and beheaded, his body soaked in bleach. His head was gone, and to this day it has never been found. The woman eventually charged with his murder wasn't a stranger. She was the mother of his children, his on-and-off partner of over a decade, and, as investigators would later discover, she had secretly become something else entirely: his daughter-in-law. This is the story of Devin Michaels and Jonathan Willett, a relationship built on more than 10 years of history that ended in one of the most disturbing killings Nevada has seen in years. Jonathan Willett grew up in the Las Vegas area, close to his parents and, later, close to his own children. Those who knew him described a devoted father who worked to stay involved in his daughters' lives even when his relationship with their mother was rocky. Devin Michaels had a very different public history. Long before she was known as Devin, she worked in the adult film industry under a couple of stage names, building a career separate from the quiet family life she'd later try to construct. At some point, the two crossed paths, began a relationship, and had two daughters together. Like a lot of long relationships, theirs was not steady. They broke up, got back together, lived apart, lived together. A cycle that had been going on for more than a decade by the time 2023 arrived. What made this particular chapter of their story different was Jonathan's son from an earlier relationship, a young man named Devier. Devier was an adult in his late 20s, and somewhere along the way, Devin's relationship with him crossed a line no one in the family expected. She married him. That meant Devin Michaels was, at the same time, the ex-partner and mother of Jonathan Willett's children and the wife of his son, making Jonathan, in the strangest possible way, her father-in-law. Prosecutors would later argue that this tangled arrangement wasn't an accident or a strange coincidence. They said it was the foundation of a motive. By the summer of 2023, Jonathan and Devin were in the process of trying, once again, to rebuild something resembling a family. Jonathan planned to move back into the home where Devin lived with their daughters. To the girls, it might have looked like their parents were finally getting back together. But prosecutors alleged that for Devin, that reunion was never really the plan. According to the case laid out at trial, she had already built a future for herself with Devier, and Jonathan moving back in threatened to unravel it. The clean, uncomplicated life she wanted, with her husband without her ex, could only happen with Jonathan out of the picture completely. On the night of August 6, 2023, surveillance cameras captured Devin and Jonathan together at a gas station, walking in and out within minutes of each other, nothing about the moment suggesting anything was wrong. From there, the two went back to the home of Jonathan's mother, where he had been staying while preparations were made for his move. His mother later told police she saw them together around 10 that night, then again briefly after 1 in the morning. Sometime after she went to sleep, she heard a strange noise from elsewhere in the house. A bang, nothing more. She didn't think much of it at the time. It was the last sound in the house before her son's life ended. The next morning, Jonathan's mother went to check on him and made a discovery no parent should ever have to make. Her son was in his bed, wrapped in a blanket, unmoving. When she pulled it back, she found that he had been decapitated. His head was nowhere in the house. Chemicals, bleach and ammonia, had been poured over his body, apparently in an attempt to destroy evidence or mask what had happened. She called 911 immediately, and police arrived to a scene so disturbing that it would take investigators months to fully piece together. Detectives quickly turned their attention to Devin, the last known person to be with Jonathan before he died. When questioned, she gave answers that only deepened suspicion. At one point, when asked directly whether it was possible she had killed Jonathan and simply didn't remember doing it, she told detectives it was very possible. Investigators also found evidence connecting her vehicle to the movements around the time of the killing, and detectives came to believe she had disposed of Jonathan's head in the trash near her own neighborhood, though it was never recovered. Based on the evidence gathered, Devin Michaels was arrested and charged with open murder. In 2024, rather than face trial, Devin accepted a plea deal, agreeing to plead guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for a sentence that would have made her eligible for parole after 15 years. For a while, it looked like the case was heading toward a quiet resolution. But, in the summer of 2025, at what was supposed to be her sentencing hearing, Devin broke down in tears and told the judge she wanted to withdraw her plea. She insisted she was innocent, even as she stood before the same judge she'd already told, months earlier, that she understood and accepted responsibility. The judge found that her original plea had been entered knowingly and voluntarily, and denied her request to walk it back easily. But ultimately, the case was sent to trial. The trial that followed in the fall of 2025 exposed the full disturbing architecture of the relationships at the center of the case. Prosecutors described it as a story that began, in their words, looking like a love story and ended as a nightmare. They laid out for the jury how Devin had built a secret second life around Deviere, and how Jonathan's return to the family home represented the collapse of everything she'd arranged for herself. The defense pushed back on the prosecution's timeline and pointed to gaps in the physical evidence, including swords found in Devin's home that police never tested, arguing that without Jonathan's head, even the medical examiner couldn't say for certain how he died. But the jury did not need long to make up its mind. After a 2-week trial, it took them only a few hours to find Devin Michaels guilty of first-degree murder with the use of a deadly weapon. At sentencing in January of 2026, the courtroom heard from the family Devin had shattered twice over, first as the mother of Jonathan's children, and again as the woman who had taken his life. Jonathan's parents had been given custody of their 2 granddaughters, girls they said they'd never even met before their son's death. His stepmother told the court that his daughters would grow up knowing their mother killed their father. His father put it more bluntly, saying that someone who takes a life the way Devin had shouldn't be free to walk around in society ever again. When it was Devin's turn to speak, she offered only a brief, guarded statement, acknowledging that nothing she said could give the family what they were hoping for. The judge agreed with prosecutors that the extreme brutality of the killing put Devin Michaels at what one attorney called the far end of the spectrum of evil. She was sentenced to 20 years to life for the murder itself, with an additional consecutive term of 8 to 20 years for using a deadly weapon. Combined, the sentence means Devin Michaels will not be eligible for parole until she has served 28 years behind bars. Jonathan Willette's head has still never been found. His daughters are being raised by grandparents they only came to know because of his death, growing up with the knowledge of exactly what happened to their father, and exactly who was responsible. Thanks for watching, guys. That was Roland with you. Subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories ahead.